That's
You can play
good.
with
That's
reps.
gonna actually like make it even better. That's gonna make it like she's gonna be the superstar for the story.
I know, she's trying to press buttons and stuff. That's okay. You can press buttons.
Is she
It's not
one?
on.
Is she one already, Matt?
Yeah, May 27th
Oh my
is
goodness.
her birthday.
Crazy.
May 27th.
She's a little one. She's probably in like the 5th percentile for height and weight. She's a little one.
Well,
She eats a lot, drinks a lot, but just doesn't grow much. Her brain is like super advanced, but not so. She's not gifted in the height and weight department.
oh. Well, I mean, you and Ash are both tiny, so that makes sense. It's not like
Yeah.
either of you are 6'2".
Apparently, Ashley was a small baby too. So.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
So we're good. We're live right now. We're live.
Oh, right on.
So yeah, we are in. Thank you very much for being with us, man. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. I do appreciate it. So,
I haven't seen you in forever, man. What's going on with you? Let's start it off with that. Can we do that?
No, I'm just like trying. We'll start with me. Me, I'm good. I'm pretty good. I'm good. I've been like working a lot.
You still traveling the world doing judo?
As of now, no. Everything is locked out. Like everything, like I'm training, but I'm still like going for the Olympic cycle, training up hard and stuff like that. But right now, everything is shut down. We can't do that much.
Yeah, same
Even
as
my
you.
training, same as you. Even my training has not been the same. It's like gradually like decreasing.
How many training partners do you have? Because I have 0 right now. Obviously, you have 1, right? At least 1.
No,
because your wife.
I don't count it.
Why don't you count that? She's a black belt. She's
yes,
good
but
too.
like, see, when you have your wife as a black belt, right? You have Ashley, right? You're privileged that you have Ashley. She's doing, like, she does jiu-jitsu, right? She trains with you. She rolls with you. She does with me, too.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that, we always end up fighting. The problem
I can hear you, buddy.
The problem with that, we end up always fighting. Because you know how it goes. You squeeze in a really tight choke. You're doing a really good osotogari.
Allah has no chill.
And you know how I train. So
I'm
how's
gonna pause real
your
quick.
training been? How's your training been?
Take her in the other room. Go in your room. Keep her on the ground, please. Thank you. All right. We're not doing that for 30 minutes.
It's fine. How's I know like whenever it's not COVID, you're always training like a maniac. Like, how are you dealing?
Yeah, how's your training schedule look like right now?
I'm still trying to do something every day. I've hit the bag. I mean, countless times. I put a bag in the basement. I mounted it, and I just, my knuckles are super sore. My fingers are really sore because I'm just hitting the bag really hard, and I don't get to spars. There's no mitts or anything like that. So I'm shadow boxing a lot. Going back to like what my roots were that got me good at striking, and that was a lot of shadow boxing, a lot of footwork drills, and teaching my body how I want it to move. So when it's time to actually spar or fight, it moves by itself, right? If you put the reps in and do what you're supposed to do, you won't really have to think about what you need to do. So whenever I spar, I'm moving a lot. Also, whenever I spar, I treat it like it's a fight, even though I don't go like super hard all the time.
Yeah.
I turn on the switch. I say, okay, it's time to fight.
That's really good. That's a really good thing.
Yeah. So it's not just I don't have 34 MMA fights and that's it for competition.
Yeah.
I every time I train, I treat it as like a little competition, even though it's not. If we're training together, even though it's not, I know it's not. Part of me is like, okay, we got to win. We got to be better.
That's really good. How do you turn on that switch? Because it's very important. That's mentally you're training that. Like, and there's a lot of people that like keep asking us questions like, oh, you as a fighter or you as a judo player, you go in and you fight and you do all this like training. How do you turn on that switch that like makes you like a complete beast on the mat? So
I think you have to do like your visualization beforehand and prepare your mind for that moment all the time.
Yeah.
It's not just like you're able to turn it on and off. You actually have to talk to yourself and prepare yourself beforehand. So, I mean, you guys know just as well as I do that, like, when you're done training, you're not done training.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
you go home and you think about it.
Yep.
You think about the next time you are in on a takedown. The next time you are throwing a right hand, what are they going to do for defense? You know, these are things you think about all the time. And, you know, the better you're prepared for that moment, the more likely you are to just be able to, once you get in that moment, be able to turn it on, turn it off. So it's like, it's a lot of preparation beforehand that people don't even think about.
Yeah.
It's way, way more than just being able to just turn it on and off. You have to think about it constantly.
Yep.
It's a gift and a curse at the same time.
Yeah, because you keep thinking, your mind keep running all the time.
Yeah.
People don't like, normal people don't really like understand that, like just, but it's a really good thing.
It's funny you said normal people, because I say normal people too. But what does that really mean? That just means people that aren't a little bit tweaked like us, right?
Right, because we are freaks. We are freaks of nature. That's what it is. Because a person that like works 5-6 hours a day, it's not a normal human.
Yeah.
Just it's not a normal human.
But you know what's funny? Like, in the work world, I think a lot of people are that way in work. Like, they'll leave work and they're still like problem solving the problems at work, or like addicted to that. But just when you think about from a competition standpoint, or from a on the mat grappling standpoint,
it's a puzzle.
No, it's not you don't see it as frequently. Like, I think people do that in different segments of their life.
But if you think...
I agree with that. That's very well said. Very well said. People take their work home with them. They say don't take your work home with them because there's stress at work, right?
Yeah.
But our work isn't really stressful. It's educational and it's relaxing. So if we can bring that home, it overflows into the rest of our lives and only makes us better people, right? The reason why you guys are some of the nicest people I've ever met, because you're killers on the mat, right? I mean, right? You get it all out.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
You can bring your work home.
That's a good point.
You're allowed to bring your work home.
Yeah.
I never thought about the fact that, like, nice, like, because you always think about the champions are, like, they're mean.
Yeah.
And then you meet somebody like Matt who's, like, super nice, but that's a good point. Like, because you can get it out.
Like,
and then off the mat you can be super kind. I never thought about it that way.
Literally one of the nicest persons that I've ever known. And you are one of the most inspiring person that I've ever known, because your story, I mean, for me, it's a motivational story for me, because like I heard that you are a fighter since you are like born. Now, I want you to give us like a little introduction about yourself, what you've been doing, what's your background, how did you start like your career as a mixed martial artist, as a BJJ? Like, tell us something about you.
Well, I'm going to start at a certain time, and then I'll go back and then forward. So
that's good.
I was in my house, just probably eating a bowl of cereal at 2 p.m. You know what I mean? And I was 21, 22 years old, something like that, maybe 19 or 20, whatever. And my buddy John calls me, and he says, shout out to John Bork, because he introduced me to MMA. You know, he doesn't know, he did. He was like, hey, you want to come over? I'm like, yeah, sure, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just watching old UFC videos. I'm like, okay, what's that? He's like, cage fighting. They're literally in there trying to kill each other, and there's no rules. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, all right, I'll be right over. Went over his house, and no shit, we watched it for like an hour or two, went out in his front yard and started fighting. And we fought for what seemed like 3 hours, because you're out of shape, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. It was probably like 20, 30 minutes, but we come back inside, there's grass stains all over us, and like mud and dirt and stuff. And the following day, we signed up for a place in Vernon that was like this hole-in-the-wall MMA school. It was a karate dojo that had like, yeah, exactly. It was a karate dojo that had mixed martial arts instruction in the back. You know what I mean?
You
like
started with karate too?
No, I didn't. There was a karate dojo with mixed martial arts instruction in the back. It was
like,
it was so beginner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody was still trying to figure out what MMA was, and that was their introduction to it. They're like, we'll make a little money off this. We'll start an MMA program, and tell people there's MMA. So after a few months of that and trying to get used to that, and I was like, this is really cool. I want to take it a step further. I met Oz Pariser. Oz. I met Oz Pariser at the University of Hartford where I went to school. And he's like, hey, you want to go in the wrestling room? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. Where's that? He's like, the UHeart wrestling program. They don't have an actual team as a part of the university, but it's like a recreational program. They just go and they wrestle and they go to like off-season tournaments. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. So I go there and I'm gassed.
Yeah.
After minutes of wrestling, just warming up, and I'm like, this is really difficult. I'm going to keep going. I just kept going there, and then again, Oz was like, hey, you want to start training some jiu-jitsu and some MMA, because he had fought twice already.
Yeah.
Or maybe once at that point. I think once. He fought once. He introduced me to Kip Kolar, and you guys know Kip too. He's the owner of Naga. And he's like, you want to go here and train once, twice a week? And I was like, for sure. And I showed up. On day one at Kip's, everybody's in good shape. They know what they're doing. And I'm like, I'm getting my butt kicked, but I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it.
That's great.
And I've probably been doing it for like 3-4 months at this point, and I'm just like, I'm kind of hooked on wanting to learn more, wanting to be better, wanting to not lose, right? And after day one, right at the end, Kip goes, he's like, what's your name again? I'm like, Matt. He goes, Matt. And he goes, and I go, I want to fight. He goes, well, I'll get you a fight. That's all he said is, I'll get you a fight. He didn't know Matt was my name for the first 4 months I was there, even though we see each other all the time. You can't remember my name. I'm just this insignificant guy, and now we're good friends. But one thing led to another. It was I got my first fight, and it was like this major adrenaline rush and adrenaline dump. Jeff Haddad had his debut in MMA the same day. He fought right after me, and it was just, we both won, and it was just like the best night, dude. And you guys know, you've been in competition so much. There's stuff that you'll never ever forget. You can close your eyes and put yourself in that moment, in that match, what it felt like during this takedown, what it felt like, when you got that EPOM in the last seconds, whatever. You can put yourself there. And I can put myself in every single one of my fights. And knock on wood, hopefully these memories stay with me into my much, much later years, because I love it.
How many fights did you have?
I think that's 34.
And when did you start? Since when? Were you kid?
2007.
2007.
So 2007 to 2011, I had a job while I was fighting, and it was just fight whenever I can, but just make sure I'm in decent shape to do so.
You were
I collected a couple of regional titles. What's that, buddy?
You said you are semi-professional, at the time.
Well, no, I started off in pro because pretty much what Kip said was I was like, should I do amateur or pro? He's like, it's all the same shit right now, because the sport was still very new. So it's all the same shit. The only difference is you get paid as a pro. So I was like, okay,
that's good.
I'm going to start pro. I'd like to get paid.
You started strictly pro, not no amateur fights.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And what's your first show?
Huh?
What was your first show?
Money?
No. The show that you fought at.
What group?
What? No.
The
name of the show that you fought at.
My first, however many fights, I don't even know. Probably my first 10-ish fights. Probably 70 or 80% of them were for Kip Kolar. His promotion, his MMA promotion, is reality fighting.
Okay.
So yeah, my first several fights were for reality fighting.
Okay.
He kind of held my hand through the process of, this is how you fight. This is what you need to know for the basics. And when I get there, the week of the fight, this is what it looks like. The weigh-ins, what it looks like. The fight, what it looks like. The after-fight stuff. So I knew Kip helped me out so much. Both those guys, Oz and Kip, kind of helped me along when I first started, and got my feet wet and got me used to the game.
So how did you get involved with jiu-jitsu? I heard you're a jiu-jitsu black belt, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so when I just started MMA, you know what I mean? I didn't start jiu-jitsu and then go to transition to MMA. I didn't start judo. I didn't start any one art. It was just like, I want to fight. That's what I just want to fight.
So you
And
started with
MMA was
fighting
like the new cool thing, and so that's what I wanted to do. So I started jiu-jitsu. So I had my first fight in September 2007, and I think in January or February, I think it was February of 2008, after my second fight,
Yeah.
I was like, I want to start jiu-jitsu. Even though I was learning jiu-jitsu, it was no-gi jiu-jitsu, and it was like just like fun stuff and creative stuff. I didn't have any kind of like basic, it was just like roll as hard as you can. Here's a cool technique. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started put the gi on, I think in like January, February of 2008, after my second fight.
Okay. That's it. So Matt, let me ask, like, at our club, a lot of times we'll have adults walk in, and they're like, yeah, we know, we're 23, like, we can only go so far with this, so, like, but I really love it. I mean, and you're coaching.
He's smiling. You probably get that.
I know. That's why I wanted to ask.
All the time.
I know.
All the time.
So, I mean, you have your own club now. I'm sure you hear the same thing, but, like, I don't know. How do you explain to people, like, no, you can go far with, like, you can do whatever you want with this, just because you're older doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, how do you handle that?
You can't. Some things you can't explain to somebody. You can't. There's nothing. No words can explain what's going on in your head. You have to show them. You have to lead by example. And the only way to do that is if they actually take the class.
Yeah.
So if you show them over and over and over again, and every now and then feed them a little bit of information and remind them, like, I started when I was 22 years old. I was nearly 23. I was 22 years old. I was in sports my whole life. I love competition. I have a suppressed ego that doesn't allow me to lose and be worse, the following day. I have that, and that's a good thing, as long as it's suppressed, right?
Yeah.
You just got to kind of remind your students this, and and help them create this controlled, subdued ego themselves, and get that confidence, And if you want to fight and you think you can, then let's do it. Why not? Try a couple smokers. Let's do competitions. Jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling. I didn't do judo until I was like 3 years into MMA, I took a wrestling match.
I remember you. Like, I've thrown you a couple times.
Yeah, you have. Feet overhead. I did my first judo competition, again, probably what year? Maybe like 2012. I think I did my first judo competition and my first wrestling competition in 2012. So I've been training martial arts for 5 years and MMA for 5 years before I even tried that. And I did that to step outside my comfort zone, get better in those areas, and just push my ego aside and know that, like, I'm a work in progress, and, like, that's an okay thing. If you're a work in progress and you know it, you'll get better. You'll get better.
Absolutely.
You fought, like, in judo. You fought in jiu-jitsu. You fought. You did wrestling too, right?
Yep.
You wrestled in MMA. That's really good. Tell us about the experiences of each art, like. How?
So the first thing I tell people if they want to get into it, is, okay, you have to be able to accept something before it happens. Like, the reality is you're going to lose, and you're going to lose very, very frequently, because you don't know something until you know it, right?
So you experience it.
So you have to know the technique. You have to be able to apply the technique. And then you have to be able to apply the technique against somebody that knows the technique better than you. And then you have to be able to apply the technique against somebody who knows the technique better than you, and has experience on you, and strength on you, and cardio on you. And, like, these things take a while to, like, really grasp, and they take a while to, get over.
Yeah.
If your ego's in the way. So you try to just put it on the table right away and just say, listen, I'm work in progress, and so are you. Let's work together.
Yeah.
And, man, I love martial arts. I love it. It's made me a different person. Maybe I was always kind of that person, but it's put out on the table and showed me the way. You know,
Yoda, show me the way.
show me the way. I love it.
So you are, as a jiu-jitsu coach, as like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, now often an MMA fighter, you do fight like gi and no gi. I had this question a lot of times, like which one is you prefer? Like when you go in, when someone comes to you, is like Allah, what you prefer? Do you prefer gi or no gi? Obviously, you're a coach, you hear that a lot. So what would you tell people if they ask you that question?
I've gone back and forth on this. I have.
Yeah.
And I've come to the conclusion that you do not need to know gi. You just need to know, you need to be very, very good at no gi. If you're going to do MMA, I should say.
Okay.
If your goal is
Okay.
MMA,
Okay.
you don't need to know that. But there's certain things, like you're generally better, unless leg locks are like a big part of your system, you're generally better problem solver and puzzle finisher if you are a gi practitioner, because there's so many different factors into just a roll. There's there's loop chokes, there's lapel this, lapel that. There's so much to think about. It's not just as simple as control a front headlock, control a overhook and underhook. It's not that. The scramble is a different art form in itself, and with the gi you don't really have that, so you have to think. You really, really have to apply certain techniques that don't require strength, skill, explosion a lot more in gi. So I'd say if you're one of those people that's kind of all over the place, and some people like can't develop that like thought process of breaking down and problem solving while doing a roll. So you have to like get them good at it. Put a gi on. I don't think I was like that. I needed a gi. I was that guy that was just like smash, smash, smash,
Yeah.
Crew technique. Let's kill each other. That's kind of how I was. So gi helped me understand that like everything needs to be slowed down. As soon as you can see it, then you can think it. You can think slowly while you're doing those super, super high stress situations.
See, that's like a beautiful way, I think, to explain it. It's funny because a lot of times, like if wrestlers or grapplers come to Allah for judo class, he's like, I want you to learn it in gi. If you can learn it in gi, you can apply it in no gi. But that's such an interesting, like, just the dynamic of the problem-solving difference between the two.
Yeah, because like everyone comes in, they think like you're a judo instructor or like you're a BJJ instructor. They like have that perspective on like how do we gonna use all these techniques into fighting. When you teach in martial art, do you think like as you teach in martial art, do you teach it the same way as like when you teach like fighters, like meaning that like judo or jiu-jitsu or wrestling? Do you teach them the same way as when you teach MMA guys?
I generally think I teach everybody the same. I teach a lot of concepts rather than just like do this over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I teach a lot of concepts and like why you're supposed to do this, because if you yourself understand something, and understand why it works and how it works, it's a lot easier for you to apply it once you get there. So I go over a lot of concepts, and like a lot of my students have told me over the years, which is actually something I'm pretty proud of, is like, I love your classes. When are you coming back? When are you going to teach? I'll be like, man, I'm working, 7 days in a row, and like I can't be here, and like my schedule's crazy next week. I won't be here for 2 weeks. Jeff's going to be taking over, and it sucks for me because I literally live and breathe MMA. But like I got guys texting me, calling me like I love your classes. When are you coming back? And I just think it's the way that I teach. What was that noise?
It's Allah got some message popped up
like,
in the corner.
I don't know how.
Are we limited to 30 minutes on this, bro?
No. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
Unless your daughter
you got something.
Then
unless you.
She's playing with stuff in my son's room, and she's okay. She was sitting on my lap, and she wanted to press all these buttons and touch the phone, and
being a 1-year-old.
There's so much going on in her head right there. She's like, yay!
Oh my.
And like, I don't know, we obviously don't have a kid. Like, are you finding it extremely challenging, like balancing the fatherhood plus the training plus the gym owning plus like how are you managing those 1,000 things in your day?
I think you just accept it. Once you accept any kind of challenge, it's so easy. You figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I make every challenge as like simple as possible. Meaning like, okay, this is what I have. I have the kid. I have the full-time employment. I worked 90 hours in 1 week a couple weeks ago, and then before that it was like 80, 86 or 88 or something like that. And I was mandated to work those. Like I had to. They needed me to stay, so I did. And that's not easy. But like if you accept it beforehand, just be like, all right, it's part of the gig. Like we're not going to be doing this forever. Just go through it. You know, it's a little bit of adversity, and it's not ideal. You know, but you know, whatever, we'll figure it out. You know, obviously having a kid can be challenging itself too. It's not easy, but it's super rewarding, and I love it. I love it. She's the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. Of
course.
And you know, like, just accept it. Just accept that like there's adversity out there. Figure it out. You'll figure it out. And if you need somebody to talk to, like, hey, what's up? I'll talk to you.
Again,
I'll talk to you. Chris will talk to you. These
again,
people are mentally
like,
strong. They'll help you out.
We are fighters. You are a fighter. So you get it.
Right.
Like the rule number one of a fighter is finding a way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So in every situation, you got to try to find a way. So this is a situation, and it's a real situation because you have another human that you have to keep up. So
it doesn't. I mean, obviously, it helps and it doesn't hurt that my wife is very good at what she does. She's a very good mother. She's she cooks like all the time because I work second shift, so I'm not making dinner.
Oh my God, she cooks.
Chris doesn't cook? Oh, no.
Oh, man.
I didn't mean to call her out. You did that.
If I didn't cook, he wouldn't be so fat.
Oh, you throw it out right there, Matt. Like,
he would
oh,
be fat.
man.
Yeah, if I didn't cook, Allah would not be alive right now.
I am fat right now, you know? I compete on 145. I'm walking out on 186 right now.
Damn.
I am huge.
Fucking fat ass.
That's why we're not training together. I'm like this.
I'm huge.
Usually when I'm like training a lot and still eating what I want, if I'm still training a lot, I'm like 168 to 172, that area.
Yes.
Right now I'm not training like I normally am, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think I'm 175.
Yeah.
But I'm still training as some, and I'm still making sure that my weight isn't, completely out of control. But it's such a challenging thing to do.
It is. Right now, like I am like training at least once. During the week, I'm training like 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Not the same intensity I used to because I used to train like twice a day. Right now, I'm
training
like
partners pushing you.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt's
There's
living
no
the
partners.
same.
Yeah. It's like everything is not the same. That's why like I am like. My body is just like boom from cutting weight so much from the years. It just like getting to a point that's like Allah, shut the hell up. Boom, I'm going in, like I'm going up, and my walking in weight right now it's like 186. I've never get to that point, but like this is my normal right now since what?
I don't know.
2 months right now, like since COVID started. I'm like just like this. So beside your
bodies change over time anyway,
Yeah.
You may be getting that like old man strength, that old man like muscle thickness and stuff.
Well,
why is Kristen laughing at like everything? Every time I say something about you,
she said just like old man things. So she said like, okay, yeah, you saying it right, Matt. And I'm like, okay, cooking, yes, okay. She cooks, Did you hear that? Ashley cooks.
I'm gonna stop cooking. Maybe you'll get back to 145. I'm fine with drinking some protein shakes and fruit juice for 2 weeks.
No, but beside like your job as like a coach right now and all that, what kind of other things that you do, like coach?
Well, I'm a correction officer for the Connecticut State Department of Corrections, and I started there last May. So it was like 17 days before I had my daughter last year. So new job in the academy over there, new human that I got to watch after. Yeah. Last year was pretty challenging. So I wasn't training near as much. Sleep was non-existent for a long time. And I was training after work. I worked 4 to midnight. I was training after work. I work in summers, and I would train in Hartford because it was closer than Ascension, which is in Bristol. It's every 25 minutes, which is another 45 minutes warming up the gym, closing down the gym, cleaning the mats, driving out there, driving back. It's way more time. So I would go to Underdog instead. And I would hit the bag, and I would do the airdyne bike. I would lift, and I would do that several times a week on top of the training I would do when I wasn't working. But like sleep really didn't exist, and like
Crazy.
the fact that I won my last fight and I did it in impressive fashion with the knockout, that was so relieving because of the work that I put in prior to that.
That was the
Nobody gets
CES,
except for my wife. Everybody hears about like how shitty that is, but she saw me every day. Like I could be going to bed at like 4 a.m., 4:30 in the morning, and she'd be like about to wake up for work a couple hours later, and then I'd wake up with my daughter at 7, and I get 2.5, 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep sometimes, and then I have to work the next day and then train after midnight again. And it was like sleep didn't exist, man. But because I wanted what I wanted and I had to have it, which is the CES world title, I did what I had to do.
Good.
And if you want something bad enough, you'll do it, and you'll sleep later. That's what like the inmates would ask me all the time, and they'd be like, "Bessette." They knew who I was after day one, and like it's because they hear it. But Bessette, how's the training? I'm like, it's good, man. Not sleeping much, but whatever. We'll figure it out.
You know what it takes,
we'll
right?
If you want something bad enough, like I'll sleep later.
Yeah, you'll
I'll sleep when
find
I'm
the
done.
time for the stuff that matters to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
You put stuff in order of what you want. People that say like, "Oh, I want to train, but I got to get in shape first." But I'm not really doing anything. I mean, what do you mean you have to get in shape to train? You just go.
No, you just have to
But
go.
like, if you want something bad enough, you'll put it at the top of your list, and you'll just do it. What do you want? I want a beer. You'll go get it. What do you want? I want to train. You'll go train. If you want the beer more than training, you never wanted to train anyway.
Right.
So stop saying you do.
I need to do that. Are you saying that to me? Okay.
As he pulls a beer off the screen.
I'm getting a coffee. So do you think that like talent can get you to the success, or you have to have talent and hard work to achieve the success? Because a lot of people says like, oh yeah, I have this talented kid, but like this talented kid is like so lazy. What do you think?
You have to have that intrinsic motivation to actually show up, because you don't get better unless you show up. If you're talented but you train once a week, your ceiling is here. But if you're better than I am for 2 years, but because my ceiling is way up here, guess what? After a while, I'm gonna be sprinting by you, and then you're never gonna catch up because you gave up when you saw me beat you for the first time, and then you're like, man, how did he get so good? Well, it's because I was showing up every single day. That's how I got so good. I think it's a combination of everything. But I think the most important thing is that intrinsic motivation that you cannot explain to people. You just have to show them. You have to do it over and over. Show up every day, work harder than everybody else, and be quiet about it. That's it. That's all you can do.
Let your hard work make the noise, right?
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say in different words.
Yeah.
Let your work show. Your work will tell everyone else. You don't need to say anything. Because if you're doing things right, that's all you need to do.
So you're the current CES world champion right now, and you are like a former UFC fighter. Tell us about your experience about UFC. How did you experience that? How did you get to the UFC? Like all that story.
So I
all
was
that
training,
good stuff. The good stuff about it. The good stuff about it.
I'll try to make it as short and compact and like informational as possible. But 2011, at the end of 2011, I think it was, I tried out for the Ultimate Fighter. I made it to the final, like, I think they took 16 on the live show.
Yeah.
And I made it to the final, like, 20 or something like that, and then they cut me. And they're like, sorry, Matt, we're not going to take you, but, you're on our list for the future. and you don't need to try out again if you want to be a part of the next featherweights. Then we'll just put you in there if you want. I'm like, okay, cool. Can I ask you a question? Like, sure. Like, why didn't you take me? They're like, well, you just weren't from a big school. And I was like, we're from a big school. And I'm like, so you mean like connection wise? They're like, sometimes that's all it takes. And I was like, all right, I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, take it easy, keep training hard. And after that, I was like,
Is that
do I leave Underdog? Yeah. First thing I was like, oh, do I leave Underdog? Because my goal is the UFC. Do I leave Underdog?
Right.
Do I do what they want me to do, and go like kiss ass here and there and meet some people and get to the UFC that way, right. Or do I just work my ass off? And it took me all of like, I don't know, a day to just be like, just go train. So I went back to Underdog. I made my schedule more aggressive. I quit my job. Or I got fired, but we'll say I quit. So I was unemployed from 2011 to 2019.
Damn.
And for those 8 years, I was training and fighting full time. So I was training a decent amount. I was fighting as much as I could. And, I was worked for hire. So I was still working when I fought, but I didn't get paid unless I fought.
Yeah.
And every now and then you got like good sponsors that pay you when you're not fighting. But for the most part, the only time you get paid is by sponsors, and you're showing your win when you actually fight. So it's really, really challenging for me and really challenging for my family. So I was just training like really hard for that. And from 2011 to 2017 is when I fought Kurt Halaba for the Contender Series. So 6 years I was training 2 to 3 times a day, 6 to 7 days a week, training my ass off, doing judo competitions, wrestling competitions, as many competitions as I possibly could. I went nuts for 6 years, nuts. And then when the UFC finally called me, they told me word for word, they're like, we don't want you in the Contender Series. So when my manager talked to him, said, we don't want you in the Contender Series. You're a guy that we're going to call on late notice to be in the UFC. And I was like, awesome. So they know who I am. I'm at the top of their list. That's how we're gonna do this. That's how we're gonna get to the UFC. I'll just stay in shape, keep doing what I'm doing, keep grinding. So, like a day or two later, they offered me Kurt Halaba and the Contender Series. I'm like, what? Why am I not going straight to the UFC? And they're pretty much, and my manager's like, even though this isn't in the UFC technically, it's still for the UFC, and they match the fight, so you can't say no. You cannot say no, or else they won't look at you again. I'm like,
so it's politics.
Fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I had like 5 weeks to prepare, 6 weeks maybe to prepare, yep, that was the fight. And I don't know, 3 weeks out from the fight, so they fly us out like 5 weeks out. They fly us to Vegas, and you do all your medicals out there because they want their doctors to do it. You do all your medicals out there. Yeah. And you're there for like 4 days or something, like 3-4 days. They fly you back. And then the week after that, I passed all my medicals except for the CAT scan. It showed, let's see if I can remember. It showed encephalomalacia with a slight gliosis. You don't know what that means. I didn't know what that means. Encephalomalacia with a slight gliosis. Apparently, it just pretty much means brain damage from trauma.
What?
And yep. And they're like, you can't fight based on these findings. So you need to talk to a specialist. I went to the head guy in the United States, one of the head guys in the United States, and he's actually at Mohegan, works at Mohegan. And I was like, can you look at this for me? I need to know if I can fight again. And he's like, and he looks at it, he goes, all right, Matt, without seeing the scans, like all I can see is, their findings. If this is true, there's no way you can fight again. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, there's no way. He's like, the damage that it's suggesting is significant. And we can go from, we'll have to go forward after I see these scans, but give me a couple days. And in the meantime, before he got the scans in, he's like, just come over to my house, he didn't do it in office. He just come over to my house. This is my address. Went over to his house. He did the whole testing of like, say these words, say them backwards. I'm going to say them again in 5 minutes after the rest of the test. See if you remember them, and stand up, do this, do that, whatever.
Yeah.
All these tests, which took maybe like 10 minutes total. And he's like, well, you passed that with flying colors. I'm like, dude, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, the unfortunate thing is you could pass this and you know, the scan can show something completely different, which could potentially be really, really dangerous. So he's like, I'm going to wait for these scans. 24, 48 hours later, as I'm still preparing for this Kurt Holloway fight, I was like 10 to 12 days before the fight, and I still don't have, I have no reason to believe that I'm actually going to fight.
Yeah.
So it's probably a week total where I'm like, just super frustrated and anxious of like, I'm not going to get this fight for the UFC, but I'm also never going to be able to fight again. So I had no idea what was going to happen. He calls me while I'm doing a private lesson, and he goes, Maddie, you got a second? I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, you're fine. You're fucking fine. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I want you to train. I want you to fight. I want you to take this fight. He's like, because whoever read this was a massive overreading. I don't know what they saw. I'm going to have to talk to them. But I talked to a different professional in this field along with me. We both looked at it, and we see absolutely nothing. Your brain is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And I'm like,
oh, thank God.
It was like this like wave of like just
Yeah, but
release.
why did they make all that up?
So I messaged Chris right away. I was like, dude, we're fighting. This is what happened. He's like, all right. We sent in the I got something on my keyboard here. We sent in the results of what the doctor said, and Dr. Anthony Alessi, guy's phenomenal, by the way. And you know, I got the fight, but like I was super, super stressful for 2 weeks before, a week out, and I went out there, took the fight, and I lost. I broke my thumb the first punch I threw. It was it's called a Bennett's fracture. It was a dislocation and a break, so it was stuck like this. I couldn't move it, which means I couldn't actually make a fist.
Yeah.
Because you can't make a fist without you bending your thumb a little bit, because you got to access this muscle down here.
Yeah.
And I kept throwing the right hand, and it kept hurting even more. So that was a nightmare of a situation. Fast forward a little bit, and I'm in the kitchen. This is after that fight, after my hand heals, and I'm ready to fight again for CES. And I fast forward in the kitchen of my mom's house, because that's where my wife and I lived, because I was a piece of shit and I didn't have a full-time job, and all I did was fight for a living, right? But I had this like pipe dream that I needed to go there. I needed to do it, and she was supporting me the whole time. She's an amazing woman. And we're in the kitchen, and she's like, Matt, how much longer are you going to do this? She's like, we need to get out of here. We need to do this. We need to do that. And I'm like, you're not wrong. And I'm like, this is super stressful for me too. Even though I wear it well and it doesn't show it, I'm like, it's super stressful for me too, because I know that I am capable of providing better for my family. And you know, we're in my mom's kitchen, and I go, this is going to be my last fight, because I had signed a fight with CES to defend my side one more time, and then that'd be it. I said, this is going to be my last fight. And she's like, what? And I was like, it's going to be my last fight. I'm not going to fight again. I'm going to find a job, and we're going to move on. And, you know, she shed a couple tears. I did too. And it was obviously super emotional. Because you do this every single day. It's all you think about outside of your family. And even every time you eat, you're thinking about fighting. Because you're like, I can't eat too much because I got to be a certain weight. Like, all you think about is fighting.
Yeah.
So, you know, 16 hours later, I am in the car, and I'm driving. Just got done teaching a private lesson because I got to make money, right? 'Cause I'm not fighting. And I'm driving the car, and my manager goes, or actually, no, I'm sorry. I was teaching the private lesson at the time. And he goes, hey, what's up? And I go, what's up? He goes, what's your weight? And I go, shut the fuck up. He's like, what's your weight? Like, the only reason he is going to message me is for this UFC possibility. Because he knows that for 7 years now, I was waiting for that last minute call from the UFC. I was training all the time for it, and it was all I thought about. And he goes, what's your weight? I'm like, shut the fuck up. He's like, what's your weight? And I'm like, 165. And he's like, that's fucking heavy. And I'm like, when's the fight? He's like, next weekend, in 7 days. And I was like, okay.
The fight wasn't
like, what weight do we have to tell Sean that I am in order for him to let me fight? And he's like, and I was like, tell him I'll give you 158 in the morning, 158. And he's like, all right. And then like minutes later, he calls me while I'm driving away, and he's like, I can't remember how he said it. He's like, "Is you in a good safe place?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I'm driving. He's like, "We got your fight." I'm like, "Shut up." He's like, "We're sending over the contract soon." He's like, "You're fighting at UFC 220 at the TD Garden." And I was really like, good. I had to like pull over the car. I was so fucking emotional, dude. Oh, so emotional.
I mean, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember us
that.
watching because, like, we knew from years back that was the
like,
goal.
That was your goal.
So happy that you made it happen.
I mean, we were happy for you, man, that you made it, because this is like, we know you. We know how hard you work. We know how committed are you to the sport. So a guy like you should be in the UFC.
Yeah.
Like, should be like fighting in there, which is.
I had to pull over the freaking car. You know, I was like shaking. Pull over the car, and like I got my shit together. And my manager's like, "Dude, don't cry. Not on the phone. He's gonna make you cry."
Yeah, I have to.
and you know, it took the fight, and I lost. I went from 165 to 145 in 6 days, and that was super shitty.
Yeah.
But you know, when your mind is right, you just do it. Just do it, and it's gonna be shitty. But like, if you know you're gonna make the weight because you've made the decision to do it, it's just something you do. So I made the weight, and it took a lot longer to actually make the weight than in the past. Because usually at that point I'm like 155 or below, not 165.
Yep.
I made the weight, and you know I fought the fight. It was an amazing experience. He won the first round. I won the second round in two of the judges' eyes, so I won the second round. And then when I sat down after the second round, I was exhausted. And the only time I ever been that tired is in my first fight when I didn't even know how to train.
But that was your fight, like at 145, right? Like how?
That was at 145.
Like you never fought at 145. Your weight was like always 155, right?
So no. My first, 12 fights were at 55, and then I transitioned to 150 a couple times. Then I fought at 145. So I've been at 145 since 2012 maybe.
When you left Rhode Island. No.
Man, I felt like when I left Rhode Island, you were like fighting 145 too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys were the same
I just beef up after my fight. So whether I'm 155 or 145 when I weigh in, I still weigh 162 the following day.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing.
Yep.
You know, so after weighing at 145, I still put on 15 to 17 pounds. I still look the same for the fight. So you'd have no idea if I'm actually at 55 or 45. So I still look the same.
Yeah. That's like, typically that's what Allah, is like 162 right after weighing in. So it's typical.
Yeah. What do you guys get? Do you get 24 hours?
No, right now the system has changed because we have 24 hours to weigh in.
No, you have 12 hours.
12 hours.
12 hours before you weigh in, but that morning
they'll
select 5 people from the division. You have to be within 5%.
5%. So you always have to control yourself. Like you weigh in like at 8 at night prior to competition, like the day prior to competition. And during the day in the morning, at 9 a.m. in the morning, 8 a.m., they do like a draw that they select 5 people from each division.
Yeah.
So like either 145 pound, 130, they select 5 people. And this 5 people...
You have to assume that it's going to be you.
Yeah,
you have to make sure that
like...
You have to wake up on weight. You have to wake up on... Like if you
145... It's awful.
Yeah, if you 145, you don't want to like go above like 150. You need to stay just at 150 because that's your 5%. If they find you like above the 5%, what they do is they give you like a half an hour. They give you a half an hour until like you get your weight. If you get back to your weight, you can compete. But if not, they cross you over. You're done. But like that's just internationally. That's like World Championship, Grand Prix, Grand Slams, all that. If you just like fighting locally, they don't really do it.
Right.
Like
everybody's crazy fat the day of the fighting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's what I did. So
Yeah.
I had
You
experience
went in
with
the
that.
night before, and then you're like, all right.
I was just like, I'll just go and weigh in whatever I am and go against somebody, and then I go against this like beast wrestler who also has really good judo. I'm like, oh, I'm fucking flying through the air.
how was your gym going? Like, how's your community? Like, how many students do you have? Like, what's the schedule? What's your schedule look like? How long you've been? How long you've been like running your own gym? You run your own gym right now, right?
It's I cannot claim that at all. Jeff, since I got this new job with the DOC,
Yeah.
my role has changed significantly. Before it was just me and Jeff did a lot of like the books and a lot of the stuff that people don't see,
Yeah.
and then I did a lot of the teaching, the training, and stuff like that. Jeff also taught too, so I can't take that away from him. But it was kind of 50-50 along those lines. We both had like very different roles, but we played an equal part. And then when I got this job, it's like I physically cannot be there nearly as much. So we took on a third partner who's actually a great dude, very, very similar to like both Jeff and I, just a down to earth dude. His name's Dan Mina, and Dan has helped progress the business tenfold. So we got a new spot. And both Jeff and Dan play a really big part in the stuff that people don't see, meaning like the stuff outside of just everyday teaching and training. And they also teach and train a lot. And my role now is like, the UFC fighter, the name
of it,
attached to the gym. And I pretty much make a schedule to teach and train each month. And try to be there as much as possible, given my schedule. Because this is my schedule for work. You ready? 7 days, and I work second shift. And at any time I could be mandated to work third shift, meaning the next day I can't do shit. I just have to sleep and then go back into work. 7 days on, 3 days off. 2 days on, 2 days off. 7 days on, 4 days off. 2 days on, 1 day off. 7 days on, 5 days off, 5 days on, 3 days off, 5 days on, 3 days off. And it's 3 cycles. And cycles and cycles and cycles. You don't need to remember that. What you need to know is it's fucking all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make a schedule week by week by week to be the same thing. You can't.
You don't have the same
It's got to be a monthly
schedule.
thing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I could be there on a Tuesday, the following week I can't be there on a Tuesday, so I have to come on like a Thursday or a Friday or something.
Oh, man.
It's all over the place, which was really hard for myself, Dan, and Jeff at first, and it's really hard for the students at first because I was there a lot, and to not have me teaching and a part of that was tough for everybody. But we figured it out, and we would not be where we're at right now without those guys. There's no way. I'm such a small part in it now. And that sucks for me because I wish I could be more, but like the little girl in the other room, she's why I'm doing this,
Yeah.
And everybody knows that, so everybody's okay with it, and they back me.
Well, I mean, so given that stuff is so different than it had been in the past, I mean, in trying to keep like strong relationships in the gym, what do you think's like most important for you in terms of like keeping a good coach-student bond?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not there every day, that's okay. How is that
keep up that relationship between
What an
your
awesome question.
students?
That's an awesome question because I don't have a good answer for it. It's challenging. It's really challenging, especially because 3 months have gone by, and it's even harder for them to remember their relationship with Dan and Jeff, who they see all the time.
Yeah.
And rather than just think about me, but it's different. So like when I show up, I am the goofy fun guy, but I'm also the guy that takes his training very, very seriously. So whenever I teach, I'm very like down to earth, but I make sure that everybody does exactly what they have to do. So like the work ethic is there, the focus is there, and I try to instill those things into everybody, whether you are the 5-year-old kid or the 55-year-old man or woman. I try to motivate people, I'm hopefully I got the help as a motivator, the fun guy, and you're there to have a fun class. And at the same time, you remember that all those things on the wall, those posters, those awards, the banners from fights and stuff like that, and UFC, Bellator, those are from the guy that was in your shoes every single day. And again, that brings us back to what I said before, is like sometimes the only thing you can do and the best thing you can do is just lead by example. Just show up and do it. Sometimes that's enough. And those guys have said, Jeff and Dan have said, like, your presence is needed. Even though you're not the same role, like, your presence is needed. And just me being in the gym sometimes is enough. Wow. And that obviously makes me happy to hear that, but I wish that I could be there more. But there's not enough hours in a day, and my brain won't let me exist without some sort of sleep and recovery.
Why not like self-focus on just like teaching? And do you think that like teaching jiu-jitsu, judo, or martial art is not going to make you enough money to help support your family?
No.
No?
And unfortunately, no. Especially because now 3 of us own the facility, or own the business. It's got to be split. So if it was just me, and that was my desire to do so, maybe, but not right now. Not right now. It doesn't pay the bills. Jeff has to have a part-time job. Not thinking about this pandemic at all, but Jeff has to have a part-time job, to pay bills and stuff. And Dan has to have a part-time job. They can't just do that. It's tough with what they want and the things that they want and things that they need, food-wise, living arrangements-wise, car, whatever bills they have. They need the part-time job as well to live. And I didn't want that because I did it from 2011 to 2019. Yeah. That's all I did.
Yeah.
And it fucking sucked. It sucked. Yeah. I don't want to do that anymore, man. Yeah. I want a job that, I enjoy being a correction officer, and not a lot of people can say that. I enjoy it. And if I can do that and know that I'm going to get a paycheck every single week, and know that I don't have to worry about the stressors of money coming in, and I have the best, our family has the best health insurance that you could possibly have in the United States. Like the Connecticut DOC insurance, there's nothing better. So we're not paying for like anything. And the next time we have a baby, this is how much it's going to cost,
Yeah.
So.
Holy. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a massive weight off my shoulders. And although I love teaching, and I love training, and it's still a massive, massive part of my life, and it's probably still like number 2, just below my family. You know what I mean? Like maybe like here. Okay. Maybe like here. But even though it's still there, it's the first thing on my mind all the time is make sure everybody's healthy in the family. That's all.
That's good.
Yeah, happy and healthy. That's it. Nothing matters unless you're happy and healthy and you have your freedom.
Freedom is what we're looking for, right? That's the thing.
That's right.
That's number 1.
That's what's going on right now. That's what's going on right now. Let me out of my house.
Oh my God! Everyone is locked out home, and it's like, how's things going on in Connecticut? Is it like crazy or just like calm as? I don't know.
It's not crazy at all. There's a protests here and there, like some in West Hartford, Bristol, Hartford area that I've heard about. But like nobody's breaking stuff at all. There's no riots, which is cool.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if there were riots, you wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
400 years of that shit, man.
Yeah.
You can only take so much.
I know.
Yeah.
You won't hear me say that's the wrong thing to do. But at some point, it's like, okay, you got out of the way. Let's try to move on together. Hold my hand. Let's take the next step.
Enough is enough, right?
Let's take the next step,
Yeah. So, I know that you've been injured, so many injuries, right? You've had
only a broken thumb, that's it.
So many injuries. And those are like setbacks that like so many people like think as setbacks. What do you think when you get injured? What goes in your mind? And how do you deal with it during like preparing for your tournaments, preparing for your fights, preparing for that? How do you deal with it?
An injury is obviously different from like your aches and pains and stuff like that like make it difficult to train. You know, an injury is like something that is making you lesser of you. A broken thumb is significantly lesser of me. I can't use my right hand, and because I can't use my right hand, that takes all grappling out of play. You know, grappling doesn't exist. I can't throw the hand. It's very different. I'm not going to disclose all of my current or past injuries, but there's one of them which kept me from judo for a while, quite a while, and still competes, limits me in certain things I do standing. But I mean, like, injuries come and they go, and you just have to, you have to put things into perspective. Like, can I train? Can I safely train? Even maybe not the way that I want to, but can I safely just show up and do certain things that I can still be better? You don't have to be the person you are every day, the 100% guy. Like, when I had my thumb in a cast for 6 to 8 weeks or something like that, I was jabbing on the bag for weeks. They said, don't sweat. Don't let the sweat get on it, or else this could happen to get infected and stuff. So I pulled my arm like up here, so the sweat would come down my arm. You know what I mean? And I'd be jabbing the whole time.
Yeah.
Jabbing. So I'd throw my left hook, my right kick. I'd throw my jab. So my left arm got much better, and you could tell like the atrophy started kicking in because my right arm was like so weak. My bicep was like this, you know, and my left arm was much bigger. But you know, you figure it out.
Yeah.
Like you said before, we talked about before. You just figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, injuries are going to play. They're gonna happen, especially in something that's so physically demanding. It demands MMA, any kind of martial arts that's like, you know, full contact like that. Even judo is like super full contact. When you hit the ground, that's the fullest contact that you get. You know, you get slammed on the ground, somebody else follows and drives you through the mat. That's full contact, you know. And if you aren't 100% for that, but you still want to train, you train, but you don't do exactly what you want to do. You kind of step back and you go, all right, I'll do that.
Readjust. Like readjust.
You have to tailor it to what you can actually do without hurting yourself more.
Because I've like known so many athletes that like says like they think they have that tough mentality. Whenever they're injured, they're just like, no, you're injured. You have to go. You have to keep going. You have to train through it.
Yeah.
So I was always not the same guy. I was like always like, okay, yeah, I'm injured. I have to do something because I know that I have to do something, but it's not like something that is gonna worsen my injury. I want to like think long term. I want to think about like what's my goals. So this is me thinking of it. But like other I've seen
that's the problem, because people think that they have to do what they have to do in order to be better. Yeah. But if you take yourself back, you know, which is kind of what we're forced to do for these past 3 months.
Yeah.
We can't do what we want to do.
Right.
So you have to think of different ways to get better.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of mental training. I've been doing a lot of, you know, shadow boxing, and like I said, I already said what I've been doing. But like, there are different ways that you can get better. And I would bet all of the money that I have in my wallet, which is $0, but there's a lot of credit cards, all the money on my credit cards, right? That I am better now than I was 3 months ago. And has everything to do with me just, you know, doing like your visual training, and, you know, the stuff that I can do.
Yeah.
You know,
just adjusting to the
you
situation.
don't actually need to be physically doing in order to get better. And that's what people think that you have to do.
Yep.
So we've been like as a judo instructors, we've been like working with our clients or the people that like our students, right? Just like doing Zoom classes, and all we've been doing, and you know how like judo is, it's a physical sports where like it involves other person, right? But we've been just working on movements and stuff, and my students are just doing amazing. I can see their movements and their improvements on judo techniques, just like from sitting here and watching them doing it. I'm like, I'm excited that when they're gonna get back to the mat, because
you see them moving better.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It's a little scary sometimes because I'm like their footwork and their speed and their placement, like everything is much more perfect, and detail focused than it would be whenever you get wrapped up with moving someone else's body, just like shadow boxing.
Yeah, and I think as much as there is a curse, as COVID is a curse, it's a blessing at the same time, because it made us like readjust to every single situation. Like right now, we can't just go in and teach a class in the class, but we are like teaching it from here. We as instructors, we are like improving. Our athletes or our students are improving too, just doing that. So yeah, getting back to that too. How do you deal with how your gym is dealing with the instruction right now? Like, do you guys go to the gym, or you just like do Zoom classes, or?
A lot of what's done right now is, actually I haven't sent in a video in a while, but a lot of what's done right now is just like what you're doing, Zoom. And Dan Mina has been very good at doing like drills on the bags and teaching. And like it's really cool. Like he'll have Zoom up with like 10 kids doing their own thing, and he's teaching, and he's like sitting there. He's like, no, so and so do this, so and so do this, and then he'll go back to the dummy and he'll teach it. It's just like that's that kind of dedication that that he's able to provide to the three of us. That had I not been there, Ascension wouldn't work. So shout out to Dan.
Yeah.
And shout out to Jeff forever, because he's my man. But we're making it work, just like you guys. It's not ideal. None of this is ideal, but it's working.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we get back to regular classes on the 17th, there's no contact for a little while, trying to keep our distance while still. But we're in person now, which is a step in the right direction. You can actually, you can see us doing, and you can do as well. We can teach you in person. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So
that's so
we're
exciting.
We're heading back to that right direction.
Yeah.
This is exciting. Matt,
I don't want to hold them up all day.
Yeah, we don't want to hold you up like for more than this. But what you want to like say to the people that it's older right now, like 30 years old, and they just want to join MMA, or they want to like start doing any type of martial art, because that's the question that like all the people ask, and all my people ask that. I want it to come from you, and just to tell them.
My biggest fear is that when I'm 80 years old and I'm sitting in my hospital bed, hopefully I'm 90, right? I don't want to be shitting my pants yet, but from 80 years old to I was sitting in my hospital bed, and I'm looking back at my life, and I'm like, did I do everything that I wanted to do? Given the opportunities that I had, did I do them? Yeah. And then you go like this, you put your hands behind your head, and you just fade away, and you die happy. Or are you the person that's 8 years old going, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do this. And the last things that go through your head are, I wish I did more. Why would you want to do that, So take that step. My advice would be just take that step. Let your ego go, figure it out. If you can figure out how to go and get a beer with your friends every Friday night, you can figure out how to go to a judo class once, twice a week. Meet some new people. There are great, great people in martial arts. And I think that if you go into martial arts, the most amazing person that you're going to meet is that person that you look at in the mirror, that you've never known until you try something that tests you every day. So go step on the mats. You'll find yourself.
Thank you, Matt, for the nice words.
Yeah, that's
perfect. Again, that's perfect. That was good. That was awesome. Thank you for being here with us. We don't want to hold you up. We let you go.
Play with that cute
baby. Say hi to Ashley.
I miss her.
Yeah.
Say hi to
Did I hear in the other room?
And we hope that we're going to see you sometime soon. We hope that anytime you come into Philly, you're more than welcome to visit us in our club. We can host you as a guest instructor for judo, jiu-jitsu, whatever you like, MMA. You can do whatever workshop you want, because your expertise, it's it's really good. Like just your presence on the mat, it's gonna be
It's
really
wonderful.
good and wonderful. So we thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right on, guys. Good talking to you. I really appreciate this as well. And this is awesome just seeing you guys together. And you guys have a really strong connection. I love seeing you guys together. And this is a treat for me just to be able to talk to you guys at the same time.
Thank you.
Well,
I hope you guys die at 120 years old, holding hands in the bed, kind of like that movie in The Notebook. Right?
Oh.
All right, buddy.
All right.
All right, guys. Take it
Bye-bye.
easy. Be safe.
Take it easy.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Matt.